ladies. I hope that your day is going well and struggle love free. In this video, I want to talk about when competing for a man goes wrong. If you haven't already, please like the video, hit the subscription bell and the notification so that you'll be notified every time that I upload a new video. So in this video, I want to touch on a story that has been very popular in the last week, that has been talked about, which has been headlining the news, but really also the bigger picture. Because on this channel, rather than focusing on tea about a specific person, I like to talk about the bigger picture and the teachable moment. But as we have all heard about and read about over the last week, after the purported kidnapping of CARLEE Russell, a lot of new information has come to light, which calls into question the validity of an actual kidnapping taking place. And the story continues to unfold and new information is coming out day by day, but it's very troubling and disappointing ultimately to find out everything that took place prior to this incident occurring, and there is still more to come. I think it's still important, though, despite this, in all probability, was not an actual kidnapping, to continue to highlight the stories of Black women and girls that have come up missing, because oftentimes these stories are not highlighted to the extent that it is for other communities. And these stories sometimes receive very little local notice, let alone national or international exposure. But there was one facet of this story that I wanted to focus the video on, because I have been watching different stories about this over the past few days. And one part of the story talks about how she had allegedly or purportedly sent messages to another woman who was involved with, or she believed was trying to be involved with, her boyfriend. Now, they have since apparently broken up, I believe, but he was in the news at the beginning of the story unfolding, asking for prayer, thanking everyone for the prayers, and talking about how she had returned home. At some point, so there's a dialogue that she had, and it was with another woman. And she was telling the woman at the end of this exchange to stay away from her and stay away from her dude. So this happens, this scenario, even though this is an unusual situation with the missing element or supposedly missing element, but this scenario plays out so often. And it is a very teachable moment, and it's a very important dynamic for us to recognize in order to stay away from it, to avoid it, and to be averse to it. And that is the dynamic of competing with another woman for a man. At the end of the day, a man will be with the woman that he chooses to be with, if he chooses to be with one woman. If he does not want to be with a particular woman, there's nothing you can do to make him want to stay. And if he wants to stay, it will be hard to make him go away. So if this is something he's doing where he's in a relationship of his own volition, it's not possible for any woman to strong arm him away from a relationship if he wants to be in a relationship and wants to be monogamous. And this is what I see playing out time and time again, unfortunately. Now, women are waking up more so, thank God. But this scenario does unfortunately keep replicating, and it continues to play out. And I believe that it is based upon a platform, a foundation of the scarcity model, and of us being taught or programmed or groomed, all the above, to feel like a relationship is where we receive our validation and our worth, and to have a relationship at all costs, to operate in the scarcity model, to be hyper competitive with other women, and to feel like we have to compete with other women to win a man over, and that it's the other woman who has the onus of leaving the man alone because she's the one who is forcing him to not fully engage in a relationship with him. A man will choose to be in a relationship and choose to be faithful and monogamous in a relationship if that's where he truly wants to be. So if a man is choosing to engage in relationships with other women, it is of his own volition. No woman can pull a man away from a relationship that he is determined to be engaged in and to be faithful in. So if he has made up his heart and his mind and his will is to be in a relationship with one particular woman and to not be engaged with any other woman, there's no woman that can make him do that. So what I see playing out so often is that all of the energy is placed upon fighting the other woman, battling the other woman, going at it with the other woman. In some cases, you have women assaulting the other woman. You have women putting hands and feet on the other woman. You have women slashing tires, pouring sugar in tanks. Sometimes the woman is calling the other woman's job, trying to get her fired, coming up to her job, trying to fight and cause problems at the other woman's job, and going on social media, of course, and firing off all sorts of online shots. And just all of this contention and derision and scorn and drama. And again, all of the energy is focused upon the other woman having all the control, as if this man is out cheating or being involved in another relationship or situationships or having side chicks, and it's only because the women are forcing him against his will. This is something that is instilled in women that allows a man who is being involved with lots of women simultaneously, with a man that's cheating, that's not being faithful, to escape accountability. And when we are male-centered and male-centric, we will give the man a pass and put all of the burden on the other woman. Like if she would just stop calling, if she would just stop texting. Well, first of all, how did she get his number? And if they're going back and forth texting, again, that would be evidence that he is engaged in the interaction. If they're both calling each other, again, they're both engaging in the action. And if he is not blocking that number after he's already said, don't call me, and he's still, again, interacting with that woman, then again, this is something that he is a willful participant in. And what happens, unfortunately, though, is because all of the onus is placed upon the other woman, all of the blame, all of the energy is placed upon her, it allows, unfortunately, a situation where even if this woman leaves the picture, it sets up the scenario to replicate again and again because the root of the issue isn't being addressed. That's why it's so important for us to use wisdom and discernment in our relationships, to screen, to vet, to make sure we're in a healed place if we're going to get in a relationship, so that we're not rushing into a relationship or feeling pressed to be in a relationship to where we accept any sort of behavior, lower our standard, where we abdicate all responsibility for the man to be faithful and try to place all of the blame on the other woman or the other women when he steps outside of the relationship. It's very important because primarily he is the one that we are in the relationship with. So the number one responsibility lies upon him not to step outside of the relationship. And if another woman is trying to engage with him, then it would be up to him to ensure that he is not allowing and he is not engaging in this extramarital or this side relationship. That responsibility lies with him. So if we continue to make the other woman or the other women the culprit and put all the responsibility on them and make it seem like, oh, she's forcing him and she's making him, and if she would just stop doing this, then he bears no responsibility. And it sets it up for the situation to play out again and again, because what we're showing by absolving him of all responsibility and accountability is we're showing that we want this relationship so much that we're willing to accept this behavior. We're willing to accept this infidelity. We're willing to accept the man not being faithful and loyal to us. And we're willing to absolve him of all responsibility. And so that shows that we are not setting a standard for ourselves and being firm with it. And when we show that we are willing to accept anything in a relationship, when we're willing to accept not having a faithful partner, when we're willing to accept this behavior of stepping out, then it can happen time and again, and we have set a standard that says that that's acceptable and it's okay. When we know if the tables were turned, in all likelihood, it would not be accepted. But when we allow that to happen the first time and say, oh, it's all her fault, if she would just stop doing it, oh, she made him, or she forced him, or she took advantage of him, or whatever the rationale we come up with, and we allow a deflection to take place and put it all upon that other woman, then that allows a boundary to be removed and for it to be communicated that we are not willing to have a firm standard where we will accept only faithfulness, monogamy, or no relationship at all. And this is something we have to really be conscious of and really recognize within ourselves when we're getting into a relationship, that we have an understanding of our worth, that we know our value, that we are in a healed, healthy space, and that before we engage in the relationship, that we have a firm standard and criteria and boundaries. And that is where, when we're doing the vetting and the screening, and if we already are seeing red flags, we know not to proceed into the relationship. Let's say we get into the relationship and this relationship is discordant. Then once the infidelity happens or there is a stepping out on the relationship, then by recognizing that we have a standard and holding firm to that standard, we do not acquiesce to accepting anything less than our standard, let alone setting it up to happen again by absolving the man who should be faithful to us of all responsibility and accountability. Very important for us to have that firm standard and boundary so that we are not saying, I want a relationship at any cost, by any means, that I'm willing to put up with anything and I'm willing to deflect and put all the accountability on another woman and put all of the energy and all of the disappointment on her shoulders, versus recognizing that we are involved with someone who is not respecting us and valuing us and honoring us by being faithful and loyal. If we're going to be in a relationship, we should expect to be with a man who values us, who supports us, who is faithful and supportive and loving and is honest and transparent, who is responsible, who we can rely on, who our heart is safe with. Not a man who will cheat and then not only be willing to step outside of the relationship, but is perfectly fine with us putting all the responsibility on the other woman or the other woman. So that is something where if we are finding ourselves in a situation where we are fighting over a man, where we are going to battle with another woman because a man is simultaneously involved with both of us, and we find ourselves placing all the responsibility upon her and thinking if she would just leave him alone, he would stop doing this, then we really need to take a moment, step back, and assess what is going on. We need to recognize that we are compromising our standard criteria, peace of mind, by remaining in a relationship that is not truly serving us and honoring us and really does not meet the standard. We deserve far better than that. Let me know what you think in the comments beneath the video. As always, be blessed, continue to level up, stay far away from struggle matrix and the competition for a relationship that doesn't actually meet our standards, because you deserve better.